Train Your Caterpillar, a spiritual life coaching channel. You are very welcome here. Thank you very much for checking out the video. If you enjoy it and you find it useful and you feel like liking and subscribing for me, I would appreciate that very much. This video is going to be about how to talk to your spirit guides. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how they communicate with you, because they are communicating with you all the time. So one of the first things you'll notice when you start to have your spiritual awakening is the numbers, right? That's usually the first thing that people notice, is the synchronized numbers. Like you might see 1111 on the clock or on a receipt or something. You might see 555, 777. You might see mirrored numbers like 1212 or something like this. So oftentimes this is kind of just how spirit gets your attention, like, hey, there's something going on here, something weird's going on. What you see is not everything, right? And they'll keep doing that just to say hi every so often. Like if you're feeling a bit stressed out, I often notice that I'll see a number on the clock and I'm like, ah, it's cool. I'm getting stressed out about nothing, I need to chill. But also the angel numbers have meanings to them, so it's useful to Google them every once in a while, just to see if there's any specific message, because often there's a very specific message. There's tons of websites, but sometimes they're kind of conflicting. The one that I use, I think she's called Joanne Scribes. I'll leave the link in the description box. She's not affiliated with me, it's just that I find her very consistent. So that's why I use her, and I know she's been around for a while, so it's just the one I've always used. Another way is that you might see a white feather, you know, when you're out for a walk, or sometimes you might even find one in your house or something like this. That's just it's just a little nod from spirit, just to say, hey, we're here, like you're not on your own, we're with you, everything's cool, you know, just to say hi. You might also see there's going to be certain synchronicities that are specific to you, that mean something to you, right? Excuse me. Like for mine it was butterflies. As you will know, if you you've seen my tarot channel, I named it Madam Butterfly. I have a thing about butterflies. So that's how they used to kind of get my attention, or just say hi to me. You know, I would suddenly zone in on like a butterfly on a bedspread, or like on a curtain, or there would be like a butterfly icon on a particular reading that I was supposed to watch or something like that. There was one time actually, excuse me, there was one time I went out for a walk because I was so stressed out about something, like I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack. So I went out for a walk and I left my bedroom window open, like really not very much, like this much. And I came back and there was a butterfly in the bedroom, and it was quite a chunk of a butterfly as well. Like he must have had to wiggle quite a bit to get in there, and he just was sitting on the bed, and then he just kind of fluttered around, and then he was gone. It was amazing, and it was just a sign from spirit just to be like, look, everything's cool. Things in the 3D seem very chaotic, like there's not a lot of control, but we're in control. Like you don't see the big picture, but we see what's happening. You're fine, we've got you, relax. So that's often, you know, why you'll see these little symbols, like just spirit saying hi. So there'll be something specific for you, or probably a number of things specific to you. Animals are also another way that they'll communicate with you. Like you might see a particular animal for a few days in a row. You know, you don't have to see it in real life, but you might see it on like a TV show or on a book cover, or they might mention it in a book, or you know, on a magazine cover, or like on an advert or something like that. You know, or even if you go out for a walk, like they'll maybe show you like a deer or a stoat or something that you wouldn't usually see, or even something you would see, but they'll show it to you like again and again and again, like something like a snail. You know, and then if you go home and look what the meaning is, it's usually something very specific to what's going on in your life, or that's what I find anyway. Excuse me. Dreams are another way that they will contact you, particularly if you're not meditating a lot during the day, which we're all guilty of. They'll talk to you through your dreams. So it's really helpful to keep a dream diary, just a pad of paper and a pen next to your bed, and as soon as you wake up, just write it down, because by the time you've went and made your coffee, you'll have forgotten it. You know, so just write it down immediately. Then go and get your coffee, and then you can come back and be like, whoa, weird, I was dreaming about a dancing dinosaur in a dress. What the hell, spirit? And there's a really good website called Anti-Flow. Again, I'm not affiliated with her, it's just, she's accurate. It's amazing. Like, every single time that I've used her, I've looked it up, it's been dead on for what's been going on in my life. It's crazy. I'll leave the link in the description box as well. But also, if you're going through an ascension period, I just want to mention, like, an ascension is when you're doing your shadow work, which if you want to know what shadow work is, I have a video about that too. Like when you're doing your shadow work, releasing old baggage and ascending, which might happen during a full moon or a new moon or an eclipse or a portal opening or anything like that, you'll find that you're probably tired when you're waking up. And it's because they've taken you away during the night to like teach you things. Like you're getting downloads and stuff during the night of like information that you didn't have before. So that might be why you're waking up tired. Another thing is flickering candles. Like obviously if you're in a draft, that's going to be why the candle's flickering. But if you're in a draft free zone, you know, and there's nothing weird going on with your candle, like it wasn't flickering and then suddenly you're meditating or you're doing divination or something and it starts flickering, it's usually a sign that your guide is around, or your angels, or you know, whatever you want to say. I do think that guide and angels are different things, but it can mean, you know, it can be messages from your guide or your angels, but I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, okay? So that's how your guide is talking to you, or your angels are talking to you, whatever you want, however you want to see those messages coming from. But the way that you're going to communicate with your guide, now that's slightly different, right? Because it's fine for your guide to communicate with you, but when you want to ask a specific question, you want to get specific answers, you need to be able to communicate with them. So the way that that happens is your third eye opening. The more, if you want to know about the chakras, again, I have a video about that, but the third eye chakra, when you have your spiritual awakening, your third eye and your crown chakra are going to open more and more, the more that you progress along your spiritual path. So the third eye is the seat of the intuition, and that is how your guide communicates with you. So the more open your third eye is, the more you use it, the stronger your connection with your guide will be. So your guide will speak to you through your intuition, your angels will speak to you through your crown chakra, okay? So the best way to communicate with your guide, to strengthen the communication, is through meditation. When you're first starting out, it's easier to use a guided meditation to speak to your guide. I'm going to leave the one that I use in the description box, but obviously there's thousands of them on YouTube, but this is just one that I really like. She's so relaxing as well though. Good luck getting through it without falling asleep. I usually fall asleep and then wake up halfway through and I'm like, oh, I fell asleep again. But you can ask, you know, you can think of specific questions you want to ask and then go into the meditation. Now you may not get the answer right away, right? Like you might when you're doing the meditation, you know, you might ask your question, see your guides, get the answer right away, bing bang boom, you're done. But it doesn't always happen that way, you know, because sometimes you're actually kind of like, if you're holding on too tightly to getting the answer, it's almost like you're blocking it, right? So when you can get to that point when you can kind of relax, because you know you're going to get the answer at some point anyway, the quicker it tends to come, right? But sometimes it depends on when you're supposed to know it. Sometimes you're not supposed to know it that day. Sometimes you're supposed to find out in a week, or in 2 weeks, or in a year, something like this. Sometimes you're not supposed to know the answer. Unfortunately, that might just be something that you have to accept, that sometimes you're not ready to receive the answer, or you're not meant to have it. You're meant to find it out on your own many years later or something. But you know, sometimes you'll get the answer during the meditation. Sometimes you might find that you just have the information in your head a few hours later, or you might be drawn to a specific book and the answer's in there, or you might be drawn to a specific video and the answer's in there, or you might overhear a conversation where someone gives you the answer. It might happen like that, right? Or you might dream it and you might just wake up with the answer and be like, oh, that's what it is, that's amazing. So sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes you get it right away. Once you can, I do think the guided meditation is easier to start with because it kind of just gives you a structure, you know, but then you can move on to just meditating and making contact with your guide that way. You don't have to know your guide's name to talk to your guide. They don't care about that stuff. So if you're just meditating, you know, think of a question that you want to know, ask your guide, and then just kind of let go, right? You might get the answer right away, depending on how strong your intuition is, but like I said, sometimes you're not meant to have it right away. Or sometimes, you know, you'll go away and you'll get it in a couple of hours, or you'll get it the next day, or in a week, or something like that, right? It's unlikely that you're going to know your guide's name right away. You know, it can take years to figure out what your guide's name is, but I think it took me about 3 years, 4 years, something like that. Like when I first was on my, got started on the spiritual journey, I didn't know my guide's name for 3-4 years, something like that. My guide's name is Chris. He usually sits on my right side. And when I see him, I usually see him kind of in front of me to my right side. Now, when I say see him, it's not like, you know, I always thought it was going to be like a ghost or something, but you're not actually seeing him or seeing them like it's a real person moving around in your flat or whatever. You're seeing them in your mind's eye, so it's like a projection, right? It's like a thought form. But it depends on you which side they'll sit on usually. Sometimes it's on your left, sometimes on your right, but he usually sits on my right. And I just asked him, you know, but I think I asked for a while and it didn't come, because the thing is, you will find out the information when you're ready. Sometimes you're not ready. Like sometimes you kind of, like I said, you block it, right? Because your ego, like your brain maybe wants to fill in the information itself with something, you know, because maybe you're looking for something very exotic and it's not, like it's something more like Chris, you know. Not that Chris is not an exotic name and it stands for something else, but you know, it just might take you a while to get the name right. But this book what I'm about to say comes from this book, which is Gordon Smith, Mediumship Made Easy. I will leave the link for that in the description box in case you're interested in reading it. It's a very easy book to read. He was the guy on, he was on Most Haunted. He's the Scottish medium on Most Haunted, but it's a very easy book to read. But he talks about asking your guide to leave you a calling card, and what he means by that is asking your guide to show you some kind of physical sensation to let you know that they're around. So his guide puts like a beard on his face, like he can feel the sensation of having a beard on his face. My guide will make my face cold, like he'll, like almost like someone with really, really cold hands is stroking your face, or sometimes he'll hold my hand and it'll make it really cold, or touch my leg. But it's always on this side and it's always cold, despite the fact that I have asked if it could be warm instead, because I live in Scotland and I'm cold all the time anyway, but apparently it still has to be cold, which is fine. So it's just really a question of, it's easy to get frustrated when you first start asking for these things and they're maybe not coming, right? But that is, you really just have to learn how to relax, because really the ego gets in the way at first, because you know, you ask the question, you're like, what's your name? Because you want to have that connection, you want to know their name right away, right? But actually sometimes you kind of have to wait until the ego is out of the way, right? Because sometimes the ego wants to know things just so you can be like, I know my guide's name. Do you know what I mean? But actually you need to get past that to the point where you're like, I don't really care, it doesn't matter. If I learn my guide's name or if I see them or not, doesn't matter, I don't care. Like either way, whether you know their name or what they look like or not, you're still talking to them, you're still communicating with them, you're still getting the information. So it's just that when, like, the more you develop your intuition, the easier the answers will come because you're not blocking it, right? Because you're learning to listen more to your intuition. Because once you've, like I said earlier on, when you're asking the question, often you will get it in the form of, like, you'll find the answer in a book or a TV show or an overheard conversation or something like this. But once you start to develop your intuition more and more, and you just kind of accept information that comes to you, the information will almost immediately appear in your brain. And that's kind of how it works. Like, that's kind of how they talk to you. Like, that's how you hear them. Like, you don't actually hear a voice, you see the information in your head. You know, that's how I see it anyway. So it's just, you'll just know. You know, you'll ask a question and you'll just know. I mean, you still might not get it right away. It might be 10 minutes, half an hour, something like that. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. It's just really a question of, like, it's really a question of letting go, really, and trying not to let the ego get in the way, and just taking time. It's like practice, you know, it's like the same as everything else, like it's practice. But the more that you meditate, the more that you're giving your guide space to just come in and deliver the information. Right? But you know, even if you're not meditating, because I know, you know, not everybody does, right? Sometimes things happen, life happens, right? But if you know, you just sit quietly for a few minutes and you make the time to kind of ask your guide the question, you will get the information in some way or another, you know, because they're always around. They're like, don't ever think that you're alone. You're never alone. Your guide is always around, like some kind of nosy family member that's like always wanting to stick their beak in and get up in your business, you know. They're just waiting for a chance for you to, like, invite them in and be like, yes, please guide me. And they're like, finally, oh my god, been watching you mess up your life for so long. But they don't judge you, you know, because they're not like that. They're like interdimensional, like transcendent beings. They don't do the judgment thing, you know. So you mustn't ever worry about annoying them or asking them too many questions, because I ask them about everything. And the other thing is, ask them for help, right? Because they can't intervene until you say it's okay, because you have free will. So they can't just be like, oh, look at this idiot's just like messing everything up. I'm just gonna get in here and intervene. Like, they can't do anything until you be like, help me, please help me. Like, I ask them for help with everything. Like literally everything, like with like cooking or like doing my hair or anything, just anything. You know, I usually ask them for help before I sit down and make a video, just because it makes it easier that way, right? So I hope this was useful. Many thanks for watching. If it was useful and you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe for me if you feel like doing that. I'd appreciate it a lot. And many blessings as always. Love and light.